Jack Morgan walked through the long metal hallway of the Galactic Council station with heavy steps. His black suit felt tight around his shoulders, and his hands were sweaty inside his gloves. Behind him walked 5 other humans, all wearing the same formal clothes and serious faces. They had traveled for 3 weeks to reach this place, floating in space around a planet called Kepler Prime. The hallway was huge and cold. Strange lights hung from the ceiling that changed colors every few seconds. The walls were made of some kind of smooth white metal that reflected their faces as they walked. Jack could hear his own breathing and the soft sound of their shoes on the floor. Everything smelled like ozone and something else he could not name. They reached the end of the hallway and stopped in front of massive doors that were at least 20 feet tall. The doors were covered with symbols and writing in languages Jack did not understand. A small alien creature with blue skin and 4 arms pressed something on the wall. The doors opened with a deep rumbling sound that made Jack feel it in his chest. The council chamber was the biggest room Jack had ever seen. The ceiling disappeared into darkness above them. Thousands of seats were arranged in circles, going up and up like a giant bowl. Most of the seats were filled with aliens of every shape and size Jack could imagine. Some looked like giant lizards. Others were just floating balls of gas with glowing centers. There were creatures made of what looked like living crystal and others that seemed to be made of metal and wires. Jack and his team walked down a long ramp toward the center of the room. Every alien eye, sensor, and optical device turned to watch them. The humans were the only ones of their kind in the entire chamber. Jack tried to keep his face calm, but his heart was beating fast. He had been in many important meetings before, but nothing like this. They reached the center of the room, where a small platform waited for them. Jack stepped up onto it and felt it rise into the air until he was level with the first row of alien seats. His team stayed on the ground below, looking up at him with worried faces. A voice filled the chamber, speaking in perfect English but with a strange, hissing accent. The voice came from a creature that looked like a 12-foot-tall lizard wearing robes covered in jewels. Its eyes were yellow and had no pupils. When it spoke, Jack could see rows of sharp teeth. "Welcome, humans of Earth," the creature said. "I am Chairman Vextar of the Zephyrian Empire. We have called you here today to discuss the future of your species in our galaxy." Jack nodded respectfully. "Thank you, Chairman. I am Ambassador Jack Morgan, representing the United Earth government. We are honored to be here." Several aliens in the chamber made sounds that might have been laughter, but they did not sound friendly. Chairman Vextar raised one clawed hand, and the chamber became silent. "Ambassador Morgan," Vextar said, "your species has been part of our galactic community for only 50 years. In that time, you have spread to over 200 worlds and built the largest fleet of ships we have seen from any new species. This rapid expansion concerns us greatly." Jack felt a cold feeling in his stomach. This was not starting the way he had hoped. "Chairman, humanity has always followed galactic law in our expansion. We have never claimed worlds that belong to other species." A new voice spoke from somewhere high above them. This one sounded like wind blowing through metal tubes. "The issue is not legality, human. The issue is that your species develops technology too quickly and takes risks that endanger everyone." Another alien spoke up, this one looking like a giant insect with compound eyes. "In 50 years, you have gone from basic spaceflight to faster-than-light travel. You have built weapons and defenses that rival species who have been spacefaring for thousands of years. This is not natural." Jack looked around the chamber and saw that hundreds of aliens were nodding or making sounds of agreement. He realized with growing alarm that this was not a trade negotiation as Earth had been told. This was something much more serious. Chairman Vextar stood up to his full height and his yellow eyes fixed on Jack. "The Galactic Council has made a decision about humanity's future. We cannot allow your species to continue its current path of unrestricted growth and technological development." The chamber became completely silent. Jack could hear his own heartbeat in his ears. Therefore, Vextar continued, the Council demands that humanity surrender all faster-than-light technology to our control. Your military fleets will be reduced to a size we deem appropriate. All human colonies beyond your home system of Sol will accept Galactic Council oversight and governance. You will share all technological research with the Council before implementation. Jack felt like someone had hit him in the chest with a hammer. Around the chamber, thousands of aliens watched him with cold interest, waiting for his response. And if we refuse? Jack asked quietly. Vextar's mouth stretched into what might have been a smile. Then humanity will face complete economic sanctions. No trade, no access to galactic communication networks, no travel beyond your own system. You will be alone in the dark until you accept our terms. The platform slowly lowered Jack back to the floor where his team waited with pale faces. They had heard every word. We need time to consider your offer, Jack said, though he knew it was not really an offer at all. Of course, Vextar replied. You have 24 hours to give us your answer. I suggest you choose wisely. As Jack and his team walked back, through the long hallway toward their quarters, none of them spoke. They all knew that everything had just changed for humanity forever. Linda Hayes sat at the head of the long table in the emergency meeting room, deep under the Capitol building. The room had no windows, and the air felt heavy with the weight of the decision that had to be made. Around the table sat the most important people in human government and military. Their faces were grim as they listened to the recording of Ambassador Morgan's report from the Galactic Council station. When the recording ended, the room stayed quiet for a long moment. President Hayes looked at each person around the table. These were the people who would help decide humanity's future in the next few hours. Admiral Pete Collins was the first to speak. He was a big man with gray hair and scars on his hands from his years as a ship captain. Madam President, this is clearly a threat. The aliens want to make us into their servants. We cannot and will not accept these terms. Dr. Susan Moore shook her head. She was the head of the science division and had spent her whole life studying alien technology. Admiral, we need to think about this carefully. Fighting the entire Galactic Council would be suicide. They have thousands of ships and weapons we have never seen. General Tony Martinez leaned forward in his chair. He was younger than the Admiral, but had fought in every major conflict for the past 20 years. Dr. Moore, with respect, sometimes fighting is better than slavery. If we give them our FTL technology, we give them the power to control where every human can go. If we let them reduce our fleet, we become defenseless. Secretary of Defense Karen Bell looked at the papers in front of her. The economic sanctions worry me more than the military threats. We depend on trade with alien species for many resources. Without access to galactic markets, millions of people could suffer. President Hayes listened to each person speak, but said nothing yet. She had been elected to make the hard choices, and this was the hardest choice any human leader had ever faced. Outside this room, over 12 billion people on Earth and the colonies were living their normal lives, not knowing that their freedom hung in the balance. Dr. Moore pulled up a holographic display showing human space. Look at what we have built in 50 years. 200 colonies, a fleet of over 3,000 ships, trade agreements with dozens of species. Are we really willing to throw all of that away? Admiral Collins stood up and walked to the display. Doctor, look at it differently. In 50 years, we built all of this while following their rules. Imagine what we could build if we were free to make our own choices. The argument continued for another hour. Some people wanted to accept the alien demands to avoid bloodshed. Others demanded that humanity stand and fight. President Hayes watched and listened, weighing every word. Finally, she raised her hand and the room fell silent. Admiral Collins, what is the current status of our fleet? Collins straightened up. We have 3,400 operational ships, Madam President. About 800 of those are military vessels with combat capability. The rest are cargo, research, and colony ships. How do our ships compare to alien technology? Our ships are newer and in many ways more advanced. We designed them differently than the aliens did. We focused on speed, stealth, and efficiency. Most alien ships are older designs that have not changed much in hundreds of years. President Hayes turned to Dr. Moore. Doctor, what technologies do we have that the aliens do not? Dr. Moore thought for a moment. Our quantum computers are at least 50 years ahead of anything the aliens use. Our fusion reactors are more efficient. Our medical technology has solved problems that the aliens still struggle with, and our FTL drives are faster and use less energy than theirs. General Martinez added, our pilots and crews are better trained too. We have had to be creative because we started with less than everyone else. That made us better at thinking of new solutions. President Hayes nodded slowly. She was beginning to see a different picture than the one the aliens wanted her to see. Secretary Bell, what would happen if we withdrew from all galactic institutions immediately? Bell looked surprised. Withdrew? You mean leave the council entirely? I mean cut all official ties. No more council meetings, no more following their rules, no more asking their permission for anything. The room was quiet as everyone thought about this idea. It was not something anyone had considered before. Dr. Moore spoke first. The aliens would be angry. They might try to force us back into the council. Admiral Collins smiled for the first time that day. Let them try. Our ships can outrun anything they have, and if they want to fight, they will find out that humans are very good at fighting. President Hayes stood up and walked to the window. Outside, she could see the lights of the city where millions of people were going about their evening activities. Children were playing, families were having dinner, students were studying, all of them trusted her to keep them safe and free. She turned back to the table. I have made my decision. We will not surrender our technology. We will not reduce our fleet. We will not accept alien oversight of our colonies. Instead, we will withdraw from the Galactic Council completely. The room exploded with voices as everyone tried to speak at once. President Hayes raised her hand again. We will tell Ambassador Morgan to inform the Council that humanity rejects their ultimatum. We will recall all human representatives from galactic institutions. From this day forward, humanity will make its own way among the stars. Admiral Collins was grinning now. What are your orders for the fleet, Madam President? All ships are to return to human space immediately. We will defend our territory and our people. If the aliens want to test our resolve, they will learn that humans do not surrender their freedom easily. General Martinez was already making notes. We will need to prepare for possible attacks on our colonies. Dr. Moore looked worried but determined. We will need to accelerate our research programs. If we are going to be on our own, we need to stay ahead of them technologically. President Hayes sat back down. Ladies and gentlemen, we are about to embark on the greatest adventure in human history. We are going to show the galaxy that humans bow to no one. She activated the communication system that would send her message to Ambassador Morgan at the Galactic Council station. In a few hours, the aliens would learn that they had seriously underestimated humanity. The meeting continued through the night as they planned for humanity's new future as an independent force in the galaxy. None of them knew exactly what would happen next, but they all knew that they had chosen freedom over safety, and that choice would change everything. Jack Morgan walked back into the council chamber exactly 24 hours after he had left it. This time, his steps were steady and his shoulders were straight. Behind him, his team followed with the same confident stride. The message from Earth had been clear, and President Hayes had given him exactly the words to say. The chamber was even more crowded than before. Word had spread through the station that the humans were about to give their answer to the Council's ultimatum. Aliens, from species Jack had never seen before, filled the upper sections, all wanting to witness this moment. The air buzzed with excited conversations in dozens of languages. Chairman Vextar sat on his elevated throne, his yellow eyes watching Jack approach the center platform. Around him, the other council leaders waited with confident expressions. They clearly expected humanity to surrender without a fight. The platform lifted Jack up to speaking level again. He looked around the chamber at the thousands of alien faces watching him. Some looked curious, others seemed bored, and a few appeared hostile. None of them looked worried. "Ambassador Morgan," Chairman Vextar said in his hissing voice, "have you brought us humanity's decision?" Jack nodded and pulled out a small device that would project his voice throughout the chamber. "I have indeed, Chairman. The United Earth government has carefully considered your ultimatum." Vextar leaned forward slightly. "And what is your answer?" Jack looked directly at the chairman and spoke in a clear, strong voice. "The United Earth government completely rejects your ultimatum. We will not surrender our technology. We will not reduce our fleet. We will not accept alien oversight of our colonies." A wave of shocked sounds rolled through the chamber. Many aliens sat up straighter in their seats. Vextar's eyes widened and his mouth opened slightly, but Jack was not finished speaking. "Furthermore," he continued, "humanity is withdrawing from the Galactic Council, effective immediately. We resign our membership and reject the authority of this body over human affairs." The chamber erupted into chaos. Aliens were standing, shouting, making sounds of disbelief and anger. Some of the gas-based creatures began glowing brighter, which Jack had learned meant they were excited or upset. The insect-like species clicked and buzzed loudly. Chairman Vextar slammed a large metal rod against his throne several times, creating a booming sound that finally brought some quiet to the chamber. "Impossible," Vextar hissed. "No species has ever left the Council voluntarily. You cannot simply walk away from galactic civilization." Jack smiled for the first time since arriving at the station. "Chairman, we are not walking away from civilization. We are walking away from your attempts to control us." "There is a difference," a new voice called out from the upper sections. It belonged to one of the crystalline architects, speaking in a sound like wind chimes. "You are making a terrible mistake, humans. Without the Council's protection, you will face enemies you cannot imagine." Dr. Rachel Kim, the head of Jack's science team, stepped forward. She was a small woman, but her voice carried clearly through the chamber. "The only enemies we face are sitting in this room right now. For 50 years, humanity has contributed more new technology and scientific advances to the galactic community than any other species. And how are we rewarded? With demands that we become your slaves." More angry sounds came from the alien delegates. A representative of the Void Collective, appearing as a shimmering ball of gas with a glowing center, spoke in a voice like electronic static. "Your species is dangerous and unpredictable. We seek only to maintain order." Jack laughed, and the sound seemed to surprise the aliens. "Order? You mean stagnation? When was the last time any of your species made a major technological breakthrough? When did any of you last explore beyond your established borders? You have become comfortable and lazy, and you see our growth as a threat to your comfortable lives." Chairman Vextar stood up to his full height. "You will regret this decision, Ambassador. The Council will impose severe sanctions on all human space. No trade, no communication, no travel beyond your own territory. You will be completely isolated." Jack's team gathered closer to the platform. They were ready to leave, but Jack had one more thing to say. "Chairman, you seem to think that we need you more than you need us. Let me remind you of a few facts. Human medical technology has extended the lives of billions of aliens over the past 50 years. Our fusion reactors power most of the major space stations in this part of the galaxy. Our quantum computers run the communication networks that allow this council to function. Our antimatter production facilities supply fuel for most of the galactic shipping fleet." Jack paused and looked around the chamber. Many of the aliens were no longer making angry sounds. Some were looking worried. "You are welcome to try your sanctions," Jack continued. "But I think you will find that cutting off trade with humanity hurts you much more than it hurts us." Dr. Kim activated a small holographic projector. Images appeared in the air above the platform showing graphs and charts. These are the economic reports from the past year. 23% of all antimatter in galactic commerce comes from human facilities. 41% of all new medical patents were filed by human researchers. 67% of the most efficient ship engines currently in use are based on human designs. The chamber had become very quiet. Even Chairman Vextar seemed to be thinking hard about what he was hearing. Jack stepped down from the platform and joined his team. Ladies and gentlemen of the Council, humanity thanks you for 50 years of cooperation. We hope that our future relationships can be based on mutual respect rather than attempted domination. As the human delegation walked toward the exit, Jack heard frantic conversations breaking out behind them. Aliens were asking each other questions about supply chains and trade agreements. Some were trying to calculate how much their worlds depended on human technology. Captain Dan Foster was waiting for them at the exit with a squad of human security officers. He was a tall man with steady hands and alert eyes. "Ambassador, our ship is ready for immediate departure. I recommend we leave quickly." Jack nodded. "How long until we reach human space?" 18 hours at maximum speed, Foster replied. "I have orders to get you home safely." As they walked through the station corridors toward the docking bay, Jack could hear alarm sounds starting to echo through the alien facility. Through the windows, he could see ships beginning to move in the space around the station. The Council was probably trying to figure out what to do next. When they reached their ship, Jack turned back for one last look at the station where humanity had just declared its independence from galactic authority. In a few hours, every alien government would know that humans refused to be controlled. The ship sealed its doors and began moving away from the station. Jack sat in his chair and activated the communication system to send a message to Earth. "Mission accomplished, Madam President. We are coming home." Behind them, the Galactic Council station grew smaller and smaller until it disappeared among the stars. Ahead lay human space and a future that would be entirely of their own making. 3 months had passed since Ambassador Morgan walked out of the Galactic Council chamber. Admiral Krell Noth of the Void Collective stared at the tactical display, showing the positions of his massive fleet around the human star system called Sol. 2,000 alien ships from a dozen different species formed a perfect blockade around human space. Krell Noth appeared as a swirling mass of purple gas contained within a mechanical suit that allowed him to interact with solid matter. His voice came through electronic speakers built into the suit. "Report on the effectiveness of our blockade," he commanded. Captain Zexlar, a reptilian Zephyrian, approached the command platform. "Admiral, our sensors show no large human ships attempting to break through our lines. We have stopped 17 alien vessels trying to reach human territory with supplies. The humans should be running out of essential resources soon." Admiral Krell Noth felt satisfied. The Council had assured him that humans could not survive without galactic trade. Their colonies would face shortages of rare minerals and energy, sources within weeks. Their economy would collapse, and they would beg to return to the Council on any terms. "How long until the humans send a surrender message?" Krell Noth asked. "The Council estimates no more than another month," Zexlar replied. "Their industrial base cannot function without imports from alien worlds." What neither of them knew was that Colonel Amy Turner was watching their conversation from less than a mile away. Her ship, the UES Shadow, hung invisible in space using new stealth technology that human scientists had developed in secret. The ship was no bigger than a shuttle, but it was completely undetectable by alien sensors. Amy was a small woman with short black hair and steady hands. She had spent 15 years in special operations and was one of the best covert pilots in the human fleet. For the past 3 months, she had been leading missions that made the alien blockade completely useless. She activated her communication system and spoke quietly into her headset. "Control, this is Shadow 1. The alien admiral is on the command. Ship, as expected, beginning supply run to Colony 7. The voice of her controller, Major Ben Roberts, came back through her earpiece. Copy that, Shadow 1. Package delivery is authorized. Good hunting. Amy activated her ship's drive and began moving through the alien fleet. Her ship passed within a few hundred yards of enemy vessels without being detected. The aliens had no idea that human ships had been moving freely through their blockade for months. On the planet below, Dr. Lisa Brown was working in her laboratory on a breakthrough that would change everything. She was the head of the independent research division that had been formed after humanity left the Council. While the aliens thought they were starving human colonies, Lisa's teams were developing technologies that made humanity stronger than ever. "We did it," she said to her assistant, Dr. Paul Martinez. "The new fusion reactor design is 40% more efficient than our previous models. We can power entire colonies with reactors half the size of what we used before." Paul looked at the data on his screen with amazement. "Lisa, this means our colonies can be completely self-sufficient for energy. We do not need to import power, cells from alien worlds anymore." Lisa smiled. "That is exactly what it means. And that is not all. The new recycling systems can turn almost any organic waste into useful materials. Our colonies are not just surviving the blockade, they are thriving. Meanwhile, Captain Steve Walsh was proving that human ships could do more than just sneak past alien blockades. His ship, the UES Runner, was leading a small convoy of cargo vessels through space that the aliens thought they controlled completely. Steve was a veteran pilot who had been flying cargo runs for 20 years. His ship looked like any other human, freighter from the outside, but it had been modified with experimental engines and defensive systems. More importantly, it was crewed by people who understood that they were fighting for human freedom. "Contact ahead," his sensor operator, Lieutenant Jane Cooper, reported. "3 alien patrol ships moving to intercept." Steve looked at his tactical display. The alien ships were faster than his convoy, but speed was not everything. "All ships, execute pattern Delta. Let us show these aliens what human creativity looks like." The human convoy suddenly changed direction and accelerated in a way that surprised the alien ships. Instead of running away, they charged directly at the patrol vessels. At the last moment, the human ships used their superior maneuverability to slip past the aliens and disappear into hyperspace. The alien patrol captain, a member of the Insectoid Harmony Collective, watched in disbelief as the human ships vanished. His report to Admiral Krellnoth would be one of dozens describing similar incidents. Back at the blockade command ship, Admiral Krellnoth was receiving reports that made no sense. Human ships were somehow moving freely through space that should have been completely controlled by alien forces. Worse, alien colonies were starting to report shortages of critical supplies that had always come from human worlds. "This is impossible," Krellnoth said to his staff. "Our blockade should be perfect. How are the humans getting supplies to their colonies?" Captain Zexalar looked at the reports with confusion. "Admiral, our sensors show nothing, but the evidence suggests that human ships are moving through our lines without detection." What the aliens did not understand was that humanity had been preparing for this moment for months. While the Council thought they were imposing their will on a weak species, humans had been developing new technologies and establishing hidden supply networks. Colonel Turner completed another successful supply run and returned to the secret base that humans had built inside an asteroid. The base was completely hidden from alien sensors and served as a coordination center for operations throughout human space. General Mike Foster, the commander of all covert operations, met her at the landing bay. "How did it go, Amy?" "The aliens still have no idea we are there," she replied. "Their blockade is like a net trying to catch the wind. We go around them, under them, and sometimes right through them." General Foster smiled. "Good. Dr. Brown's latest report shows that our colonies are actually producing more than they were before the blockade. It turns out that being forced to be self-sufficient made us more efficient. The truth was becoming clear to human leaders. The blockade had not weakened humanity. Instead, it had forced them to become stronger and more independent. Human scientists were making breakthroughs that would have taken years under normal circumstances. Human pilots were developing skills that made them the best in the galaxy. Human colonies were learning to thrive without depending on anyone else. Admiral Krell Noth still believed that his blockade was working, but reports from alien worlds told a different story. Without human medical technology, alien hospitals were facing crises. Without human energy systems, alien industrial worlds were reducing production. Without human transportation networks, alien trade was becoming more expensive and less efficient. The Harmony Collective had sent desperate messages, asking when human biotechnology would be available again. Their agricultural systems were failing without human genetic modifications that had made their crops more productive. The crystalline architects were facing power grid failures because their energy networks depended on human-designed control, systems that required regular updates and maintenance. Even the proud Zephyrian Empire was discovering that many of their most important facilities used human-made components that could not be easily replaced. Colonel Turner received new orders for her next mission. Instead of just delivering supplies to human colonies, she would begin offering limited trade to alien species that were willing to deal with humanity as equals rather than as council subjects. As she prepared her ship for another flight through the alien blockade, Amy knew that the balance of power in the galaxy was changing. The aliens had tried to cage humanity, but they had only succeeded in forcing humans to become more capable and self-reliant than ever before. The blockade continued, but every day it became more obvious that the aliens were hurting themselves, more than they were hurting humanity. Soon, they would have to choose between maintaining their pride and facing the collapse of their own civilization. Dr. Frank Davis stood in his new laboratory on the independent research station that humans had built far from any alien territory. 6 months had passed since the blockade began, and his team had just made a discovery that would change everything. The quantum computer display in front of him showed readings that seemed impossible. "Run the calculations again," he told his assistant, Dr. Mary Johnson. "I want to be absolutely certain about these results." Mary looked at the data streaming across her screen. "Frank, I have run the test 12 times. The results are always the same. We have achieved stable dimensional phase manipulation. We can move objects through what appears to be folded space." Frank sat down heavily in his chair. As the head of the Human Technology Consortium, he understood what this breakthrough meant. "Mary, if this works the way I think it does, we have just made faster-than-light travel look like riding a bicycle." While the human scientists celebrated their discovery, the alien worlds were facing a crisis that grew worse every day. On the Harmony Collective homeworld, Queen Zel-Andra watched her agricultural reports with growing alarm. Her species looked like a cross between insects and plants, with green skin and compound eyes that could see problems that others missed. "How many crop failures this month?" she asked her agricultural minister. 47% of our grain crops have failed, Your Majesty. Without the human genetic modifications, our plants cannot resist the diseases that have always threatened them." Queen Zel-Andra clicked her mandibles together, a sign of deep concern. "And our medical facilities?" "Running at 30% efficiency. The human-designed diagnostic equipment has not been updated in 6 months. We are missing critical software and replacement parts." The Queen made a decision that would have been unthinkable a year ago. "Send a secret message to the humans. Tell them we wish to discuss trade agreements outside of Council authority." Similar conversations were happening across the galaxy. On the aquatic world of the Deep Ones, their crystalline cities were experiencing rolling blackouts because their power grids depended on human control systems. The gas-based Void Collective was discovering that their ships could not maintain their life support systems without human-manufactured components. Ambassador Jenny Parker sat in her new office on Earth, reading the desperate messages that arrived every day from alien governments. She was Jack Morgan's replacement, chosen because she understood both diplomacy and the reality of human strength. "How many requests for direct negotiations today?" she asked her aide, Captain Robert Stone. 17, Madam Ambassador. The Harmony Collective, the Deep Ones, 3 Zephyrian colonial governments, and 11 smaller species. They all want to establish trade relationships outside of council oversight. Jenny smiled. And what is our response? The same as always. We are happy to trade with any species that recognizes human independence and treats us as equals. No council, authority, no restrictions on human technology development, no limits on human expansion. President Hayes had been clear about the new policy. Humanity would help any alien species that wanted to work with them as partners, but there would be no return to the old system where aliens tried to control human development. Dr. Davis received authorization to share some of his new discoveries with allied alien species, but not with any government that still supported the blockade. Within days, the species that had broken away from council policy were seeing technological advances that amazed them. The Harmony Collective received new agricultural techniques that not only restored their crop yields, but made them higher than ever before. The Deep Ones got updated power systems that were more efficient and reliable than anything they had used before. Smaller alien species found that working with humans gave them access to technologies that the major council powers had never shared with them. Meanwhile, the council powers were falling further behind every day. Chairman Vextar called emergency meetings almost weekly, but none of the solutions worked. The Zephyrian Empire was facing internal rebellions as their colonies demanded the right to trade with humans for essential supplies. Admiral Krell Noth's blockade had become a joke. Human ships moved freely through alien space, using stealth technology that the aliens could not detect. Worse, some alien species were now openly ignoring the blockade and trading with humans in full view of council forces. "Sir," Captain Zexlar reported to the Admiral, 3 more alien governments have announced that they are withdrawing from the blockade. They claim they need human technology to prevent economic collapse. Admiral Krell Noth's purple gas swirled angrily inside his mechanical suit. "How many council members are still supporting our operations?" "Less than half, sir, and several of the remaining supporters are requesting permission to send diplomatic missions to human space." The truth was becoming impossible to ignore. The Galactic Council had built their civilization on the foundation of human innovation and creativity. Without access to human research, human manufacturing, and human problem-solving abilities, alien societies were beginning to stagnate and decline. Dr. Davis was working on even more revolutionary discoveries. His team had developed new materials that were stronger than anything known before. They had created energy storage systems that could power cities for years. Most importantly, they had begun to understand the fundamental forces of the universe in ways that no previous civilization had achieved. "Frank," Dr. Johnson said excitedly, "the new dimensional manipulation technology could allow us to travel to other galaxies. We could explore regions of space that no one has ever seen before." Frank nodded thoughtfully. "And if we can do that, we can find resources and allies that the Council never knew existed. Humanity would not just be independent. Of the current galactic order, we could create an entirely new one." Colonel Turner continued her covert operations, but now she was doing more than just supplying human colonies. She was making contact with alien resistance groups who wanted to break free from Council control. Many species had grown tired of the rigid hierarchy that kept them from advancing or exploring new territories. "The uprising on Zephyr Prime is gaining strength," she reported to General Foster. "The colonial governor there wants to join the Human Alliance officially. He says his people are tired of sending their resources to support the Council while their own world lacks basic infrastructure." General Foster studied the strategic maps. "Amy, I think we are seeing the beginning of the end for the old galactic order. The question is, what will replace it? President Hayes called a meeting of her top advisors to discuss the changing situation. The reports from across the galaxy showed that humanity's independence movement had sparked similar movements among dozens of other species. The aliens wanted to control us because they feared our growth and innovation, she said to the assembled leaders. Instead, they have created a situation where our growth and innovation are spreading to species throughout the galaxy. Admiral Collins provided the military perspective. Madam President, our intelligence shows that at least 30 species are now openly defying Council authority. Some are requesting military protection from human forces. Dr. Moore had the scientific report. Our research partnerships with allied alien species are producing breakthroughs that neither humans nor aliens could have achieved alone. We are not just becoming independent, we are becoming the leaders of a new kind of galactic civilization. Jenny Parker summed up the diplomatic situation. The Council is losing members every week. At this rate, they will be reduced to a small group of the most stubborn species within a year. President Hayes made her decision. It is time to formalize what is already happening. We will announce the creation of the Terran Alliance, open to any species that believes in freedom, cooperation, and shared progress. The announcement would reach alien governments within days. Humanity was not just declaring independence from the old galactic order. They were creating a new one based on principles that the Council had forgotten. The blockade continued, but now it was blocking the wrong thing. Instead of containing human expansion, it was preventing Council species from joining the wave of progress and innovation that was spreading across the galaxy. Soon, the aliens who had tried to cage humanity would have to choose between adapting to the new reality or being left behind in their own rigid, declining civilization. 1 year had passed since humanity walked out of the Galactic Council. Ambassador Jack Morgan stood once again on a platform in a great chamber, but this time everything was different. The chamber was on New Geneva Station, built by the Terran Alliance in neutral space. Instead of thousands of hostile alien faces staring down at him, he saw representatives from over 100 species that had chosen freedom over the Council's rigid control. The station itself was a marvel of combined human and alien engineering. Crystalline architecture from the architects blended with human design principles to create something beautiful and functional. Harmony Collective biotechnology kept the air clean and fresh, while Deep One aquatic sections allowed water-breathing species to participate comfortably. Jack looked across the chamber to where a small group of Council representatives sat in, a section that seemed almost empty compared to the crowded Alliance areas. Chairman Vextar was there, but his yellow eyes no longer held the confidence they had shown a year ago. His empire had split apart as colony after colony chose to join the Alliance rather than remain under Council authority. The first annual Assembly of the Terran Alliance will now come to order, Jack announced. His voice carried easily through the chamber thanks to translation technology that had been improved through human-alien cooperation. President Hayes, attending as the Alliance's first elected leader, stood to address the Assembly. She had been chosen not just by humans, but by all Alliance species who valued her commitment to freedom and progress. 1 year ago, she began, humanity was told that we could not be trusted with our own freedom. We were told that we were too dangerous, too unpredictable, too innovative. We were ordered to surrender our independence and accept alien control over our development. Murmurs of agreement came from the Alliance representatives. Many of them had faced similar demands from the Council when they tried to pursue their own paths of progress. Today, we see the results of our choice to remain free. The Alliance now includes 112 species. Our combined territories span 3 spiral arms of the galaxy. Our joint research projects have produced technological advances that benefit everyone involved. Dr. Davis stood up in the science section. Over the past year, his team's discoveries had revolutionized space travel, energy production, and interspecies communication. Madam President, the dimensional fold drive developed through alliance cooperation has reduced travel time between distant star systems from months to days. Our energy-sharing network has eliminated power shortages on 47 worlds. Most importantly, our open research policies have encouraged innovation at a rate never before seen in galactic history. From the small council section, a representative of the Void Collective tried to speak. Admiral Krell Noth's replacement, a younger entity called Simvara, activated the communication system. The council still offers the possibility of negotiation, Simvara said. Perhaps an arrangement can be reached that satisfies all parties. The chamber fell silent. Jack Morgan looked at President Hayes, who nodded for him to respond. The council is welcome to apply for membership in the Terran Alliance, Jack said calmly. Our requirements are simple. Recognize the sovereignty of all member species. Abandon any claims to control the internal affairs of other governments. Accept that technological and social progress cannot be regulated by committee. Chairman Vex Tar stood up slowly. His once mighty empire now controlled less territory than it had when he first threatened humanity. Those terms would mean the end of the Council as it has existed for thousands of years. Queen Zel Andra of the Harmony Collective, now an Alliance member, spoke from her section. Chairman, your council system has brought thousands of years of stagnation. In 1 year of Alliance membership, my species has made more scientific and social progress than we did in the previous century under Council rule. Captain Zexalar, who had defected from the Zephyrian military to join Alliance forces, provided a military perspective. The Council's blockade failed completely. Alliance ships now patrol territories that the Council claimed to control. More importantly, Alliance colonies are thriving, while Council worlds face shortages and unrest. The truth was impossible to deny. The Galactic Council, which had once controlled most of known space, now governed only a handful of stubborn species that refused to adapt to the new reality. Their space stations were aging and poorly maintained without human engineering support. Their economies were failing without access to Alliance technology and trade networks. President Hayes gestured to a large display that showed the current state of the galaxy. Blue areas represented Alliance territory, which now covered most of the inhabited regions. Red areas showed Council space, reduced to a few isolated pockets. Gray areas marked independent worlds that traded with the Alliance but maintained their own governments. Chairman Vex Tar, she said, the galaxy has moved beyond your old system. The Alliance proves that species can cooperate without surrendering their independence. We share technology and resources freely because it benefits everyone involved. We defend each other because we choose to, not because we are forced to. Dr. Lisa Brown stood up from the research section. Our medical cooperation has eliminated 17 diseases that plagued Council worlds for centuries. Our agricultural programs have ended food shortages on 31 planets. Our energy networks provide clean, efficient power to any world that wants to join them. Colonel Turner, now promoted to general, provided the security report. Alliance. Space is more peaceful and secure than it has ever been. When species feel free to pursue their own development, they have less reason to fight with their neighbors. The old Council system of rigid hierarchy and restricted growth created the tensions that led to most galactic conflicts. Chairman Vexitar looked around the chamber at the prosperous, confident representatives of the Alliance. His own delegation looked tired and defeated. The Council's great station was nearly empty. Its member worlds were requesting permission to open diplomatic relations with the Alliance, and his own people were questioning whether their leaders had made terrible mistakes. What would Alliance membership require from the remaining Council species? He asked quietly. President Hayes smiled. The same thing it required from humanity when we helped found it. Except that every species has the right to determine its own future, agree to share knowledge and resources for mutual benefit. Commit to defending the freedom of all member species. General Foster, now commanding Alliance Defense Forces, added, "Your military fleets would become part of our common defense network. No species would have the power to threaten or control any other species." Dr. Davis presented the final argument. "Chairman, our research shows that species develop faster and more creatively when they are free to pursue their own interests. The Council's system of central control and restricted development was holding back every species in the galaxy, including your own." Vextar conferred quietly with his remaining advisors for several minutes. When he turned back to the chamber, his expression had changed from defeat to something that might have been hope. "The Zephyrian Empire requests information about Alliance membership requirements," he said formally. A cheer went up from the Alliance representatives. Jack Morgan felt a satisfaction he had never experienced before. The aliens who had tried to force humanity into submission were now asking to join the system that humans had helped create. President Hayes stood again. "Welcome to the future, Chairman. The Alliance believes that every species, including yours, has contributions to make to our common progress." As the assembly continued, representatives from dozens of worlds shared reports of discoveries, cultural exchanges, and cooperative projects that would have been impossible under the old council system. The chamber buzzed with the energy of beings who felt free to dream big and work together to achieve those dreams. Jack Morgan looked out through the station's great windows at the ships of 100 different species docked together in friendship, rather than fear. Human vessels worked alongside alien craft, their crews sharing knowledge and resources that would benefit worlds throughout the galaxy. The species that had tried to cage humanity's potential had learned that freedom was not something to be feared and controlled, but something to be shared and celebrated. The galaxy was bigger and brighter than it had ever been before, and every species in the Alliance was free to help make it even better. In the end, humanity's greatest victory was not defeating their enemies, but turning those enemies into friends and partners in building a future that no one could have imagined alone.